I'm happy to welcome to the stage our next presenter. Robert Ackland of SUNY Plattsburgh will be presenting Words Are Like Poker Chips, translating Condillac's De la nécessité du signe. And I'm going to help him set up his computer if you give him a moment to arrive at the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you all for being here on a great Sunday morning. If you would look at the title here, we're going to be returning to Words Are Like Poker Chips in a few minutes, but we're going to start with the word translating, look at what translation is all about. And then you see the person up there, Condillac. Condillac was an Enlightenment philosopher in France. And he wrote a chapter in a book. The book was actually called The Art of Thinking. Wouldn't that be a nice thing to have, The Art of Thinking? And the chapter is called De la nécessité du signe. And Michael, thank you very much for pronouncing that so clearly. 1746, 1775, 1798. It's because a lot of that particular book, The Art of Thinking, is from Condillac's first book in 1746. And then he wrote The Art of Thinking in 1775 and then revised it. And the finished work was published in 1798, 18 years after his death. So I'm a literacy educator. And over the years, I've cobbled together different ways of teaching children how to read. And in 2015, I came up with a definition. The definition is something that's built again on the work of many other people. And the definition is, reading is the active construction of meaning from text. Reading is the active construction of meaning from text. So most of you have probably just read, while I was talking, you were noticing that there's a book up here, Babel or Babel, however you want to say it. And the author, Rebecca Kwong, said that with translation, you get to play around with the intricacies of language, which is, of course, where the real fun is. Playing around with the intricacies of language. Paul Ricoeur wrote a book. It's a collection of his essays, and it's called Sur la traduction, and it means on translation. One of his essays is called Défi et bonheur de traduction, challenge and joy of translation. So this is what he said. Beaches of untranslatability are scattered in the text, which makes translation a drama and the hope for a good translation a gamble. Actually, he didn't say that at all. He said this. Des plages d'intraduisibilité sont parsemées dans le texte qui font de la traduction un drame et du souhait de bonne traduction un pari. So when I was trying to translate this, I was thinking beaches, and then I saw that there are actually a lot of different words that you could use for beaches. Beaches can mean, plage can mean other things in French. And parsemé, scattered, sprinkled, sown, and then gamble. Well, pari is also a bet. So I had to decide, should I say a bet or a gamble? Well, I went for gamble. Écoutez s'il vous plaît. Listen to these poker chips, if you please. Les jetons qu'on utilise dans les jeux de chance sont les mots. Words are poker chips that you use in games of chance. Okay? So, alors, il y a des gens dans cette salle qui parlent français et aussi des gens qui hablan espagnol. Me, I don't. I just use cognates from French and try to figure out what the Spanish are saying, right? Okay? And you used cognates when you were looking at de la nécessité des signes, because even if you don't know French, luckily, French for English speakers, French and English have a lot of cognates. So you know it's about the necessity of signs. So, langage et langue. En français, on fait une distinction entre les mots langage et langue. In French, there's a distinction between language, which I'm going to do a capital L, and language. Language with a capital L is a general way to communicate. In French, langue also, of course, means tongue, which sometimes we talk about, the tongue of speech, whatever. So let's look at what Condillac said about langue. Ce sont les langues qui nous fournissent les moyens de décomposer la pensée. It is languages that furnish the means to decompose. And here I had to say, like, decompose in English. Man, decompose is like, ugh. So it's actually deconstruct thought. Now, when did he say this? You can see down there. He said it in his grammar, which came out in 1775 and then was revised in 1798. Was Condillac the first person to say this? Not necessarily. Did he have an influence on Wittgenstein? I have no idea. I'm not a scholar who knows all of Wittgenstein. I have no idea if Wittgenstein even knew anything about Condillac. But this is what Condillac said, and we'll just look at the English. So if you look at the right, unless you read French, it's better in French, I'm telling you. If all the ideas which compose a thought are simultaneously in the mind, they are successive in discourse. It is therefore languages that furnish us with the means to analyze our thoughts. This is Condillac. He lived from 1714 to 1780. His first book was Essai sur l'origine des connaissances humaines. And if you do speak French, you know that modern French is connaissance. That's connaissance because he wrote this in 1746. The language was a little different. And notice that knowledge is plural in French in this part. There's more than one knowledge, just like there's more than one intelligence. His second book was in 1749, Traité des systèmes. Okay, systems theory. Oh, was he the first person to talk about system theory? I have no idea. But he talked about it in 1749, so that's pretty cool. So let's look at what he said. He said, il semble que pour soutenir nos conversations, nous soyons convenus tacitement que les mots y tiennent droit lieu d'idées, comme au jeu, les jetons tiennent lieu d'argent. It seems that to sustain our conversations, we have tacitly agreed that words take the place of ideas, like in games, chips take the place of money. Without knowing the value of chips, each of us can, with impunity, speak without having learned the value of words. Do you want to learn sciences with ease? Begin by learning your language. Well, how do we learn language? Well, okay, what am I holding up here? If you're in the very front, you might be able to figure out what this is. It's a marble. It's a clear marble, okay? Imagine that this is our core, our linguistic core, and that we develop our linguistic abilities from this core. And you develop them when you're a baby and you're hearing words and you develop them, and then you learn one language and then you learn another language. Your linguistic ID, your identity is your idiolecte dynamique. And I wrote about this in a book that's in the references. And I'll be sure to show the references list. So, well, hello everybody out there in the virtual world. When this becomes available, please look at the references. So this is my paraphrase. Words are like poker chips. Did Condillac say this? Nope. He said, les jetons tiennent lieu d'argent. and jeton can also mean token. So I was thinking, should I say words or tokens? Well, you know, I had a great picture I had taken of a little Chicago Transit Authority CTA token. But then I thought, no, it's about poker chips, because poker chips have a value. And we can assign values. We can say, oh, this word means this other word means that, and we can barter with those. So to know their value, learn your language. So here's what we were just looking at, something that was written in 1749. Well, in 1775, he came out with another work. He came out with Cours d'études pour l'instruction du Prince de Parme, Course of Studies for the Instruction of the Prince of Parma. Condillac was the tutor of Louis the 15th's grandson, who was the Prince of Parma in the the Duchy of Parma in what's now Italy. In this book that he wrote after he did the tutoring, he wrote several books within it. One is the grammar, one is the art of writing, one is the art of reasoning, and one is the art of thinking. Now, the art of thinking, here's a page from a book that was published based on the 1798 version. This particular one was published in 1803. And so it's a page from the art of thinking, and this is actually digitized, so it's really interesting to be able to access it that way. So just in case you're wondering, part 2 in the art of thinking is the most proper means to acquire knowledge. Who wouldn't want to read that? But the thing is, if you don't know French, you're not going to read The Art of Thinking because nobody has translated it into English. Why haven't they translated it into English? They haven't translated it into English because somebody said, well, Condillac himself said, that most of it is based on the 1746 book. So people say, oh, well, why should we do that? I found this collection, which is printed in 1947, and you can see that this is my copy. I vowed not to mark up the copy, but I also figured I put little pieces of paper with my notes scribbled on it. And by doing that, of course, I tore up the binding. This book was printed on wood pulp, 1947. It's not going to last much longer anyway. I figured, what the heck? And so let's look at part 1, chapter 6, that's called De la nécessité des signes. So here it is, De la nécessité des signes. You can see that it's up there. And this is where Condillac himself says most of this is from the 1746 book. Well, the 1746 book has already been translated, a great translation by Hans Arsleff from Princeton. And that's where I first encountered Condillac. And I talk about this in a piece that's been accepted for et cetera about educational research in general. So here we go. This is a French version of the 1746 book. And I've marked it up because there are a lot of places that are new. There are 3 different bits that are new. Well, let's go back to that. The blue shows, this is all new from 1775, so it's not been out there. Donc, l'usage des signes qui facilite l'exercice de la réflexion. It is therefore the use of signs that facilitates the exercise of reflection. Reflection contributes in turn by multiplying signs and can therefore take a new leap forward every day. Through this, signs and reflection lend each other mutual aid, advancing reciprocally in their process. In effect, what besides reflection has formed languages, and what other than languages has rescued reflection? I'm reading this very quickly. It's really fun to read it slowly and to really understand it. So what he said in this footnote is, and this is a footnote that was added in his final 2 years of his life, he added a lot of footnotes, and he said, languages are analytical methods. This observation that escaped me and that I have made in my grammar, which was the first thing that we looked at, suffices by itself to demonstrate the necessity of signs. The necessity of signs. De l'art de penser, the art of thinking. Who's going to help me publish it? Who knows? I just hope that it works. So here are my references. You can see Arsleff, an amazing intellectual leader, scholar. I'm kind of a hobby scholar myself. And then all of the different kinds of Condillac here. And if any of you read Swedish, you'd love to see Christine Corford's Condillac, la statue et l'enfant. because Condillac wrote a book called The Treatise on Sensations. So it's very interesting. And then my colleague from SUNY Plattsburgh and I have done some stuff. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you very much.